All right, guys, so let's finish up Backlund today. So, I want to light up here. All right, this is where we left him off last night. I went ahead and grabbed a different eye color for him. Quick note on that. When you're looking at the stuff in Cake View, look at your more recent stuff that 2K has added. Typically, those assets are going to be like miles better. So I see here, this is 2001 Kane's eye color. Um, Pretty close to that like blue-gray that Backlund had. It looks a little more green here. Um, but like I was working on the Tully Blanchard the other day. Um, Axe, like super high def, super clear, light blue eye color. Just quick note on that stuff. So anyway, let's get back to Bob. I've already got the side profile picture lined up. Um, Quick note on those. The ear is a good starting point. As far as your scale and placement goes, it'll get you in the ballpark. It's not going to get you, 100% locked on. But look at your eyes, corner of the eyes. I'm sorry, ears, corner of the eyes. Um, Nose and mouth can be played with quite a bit. And you can see we've got this Pinocchio looking shit that we'll fix. Um, yeah, let's get started on his side profile. Typically for the sides, you'll want to have your symmetry on as well. And I don't know why there's this perception that base model stuff is difficult. You can't break this shit. Um, I think that's the most important thing that you can kind of remember through this stuff. Um, it's really just clay. So getting here, fuck something up, it's okay. And what I'm looking for there, let's see if I've actually got the. All right, so the hidden part's not. It didn't retain for whatever reason, or maybe that was the body. Whatever. Going back to what I was just talking about, I'm keeping an eye on the seams around the meshes. So, like you can tell in this picture, Bob has a much more pointy kind of head. So, if you use a larger cursor um, when you're sculpting something like this, those seams are almost always going to split, and that's where you're going to run into some issues. So, let's turn our size down, zoom in a little bit. Yeah, so we look good there. On the ears, small movements. If you do, this is going to be overdone just to show a purpose. If you try to move everything all at once, it to me it seems like you run into some issues where some stuff will get malformed. So just tiny. And don't even worry about the texture per se on this. Just use it as a guide to line up, or I'm sorry, actually sculpture size. um, Whatever base model that you're starting off as, you're really only going to be using pretty much from about here, just basically the whole face. Um, you want to try and use as much in-game stuff as you can because it's going to be obviously professionally made and a little better than we can do. And it's just give and take with all this stuff. Nostrils are the one area you can usually turn your symmetry off because everything's going to be a little skewed on these pictures for the most part. And kind of like the ears, just small adjustments. And really for our side profile, once we get to our texture projection, you're really only looking to get the cheek, the jaw, and a little portion of this part of the cheek. So don't stress much about getting like the nose perfectly lined up. Um, Now, this part of the nostril, make sure you get that. That's easy to miss. And I'll probably go back in with like the smear tool once everything's done and actually get like the inside of the nose just to make sure it's good and dark. But this one's just about there, it looks like. All right, so back to texture paint. All right, so we'll make sure we have our symmetry turned on again. And there's going to be some color differentiation, but we'll fix that in Photoshop later. So before we get started on that though, let me make sure I've got this saved. All right, so from last night, um, once I had my first pass go by the front side, just like any other time you're using stencil, go into UV editing, image, save as a copy, save as, whatever you want to do. Just make sure that it's named something that you know what you're, basically where you can find it. So now we've got that saved. Go back to texture paint. Symmetry's on, we're good to go. We may have to get a little creative with him having a buzz cut. Um, some guys who have obviously like hair that's going to cover the top of their head, um, those are a little easier in my opinion to get away with. Um, Bob, we may have to use the texture. That's kind of what I did on Volkov. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure I've got a back reference. We'll just do that, and then find one of the like really simple short haircuts and either create a superstar or somebody in game, um, just to get like the top part of the head, give it a little bit of 3D pop. But let's see if there's anything else we need to get on the side. All right, that actually lined up really well. Um, a lot of times the whatever this fold is around the cheek will block that one right there. That's what I'm talking about. Um, we may be able to get by with that in Photoshop. We'll see. But same as before, UV editing, image, save as, and I'll usually call mine either head color 1 or 2 or front or side profile, just whatever works for you. Doesn't matter. So we'll save that. Okay. All right. So I've got my two projections. So this is the front and this is the side. Um, Now what I'm going to do is blend these together. And I may have to go back, like I said, and do the back side of his head. But just so this, we're not making another 30 or 40-minute video. The gist of it is, um, with these reference shots, you're almost always going to have more light exposure on the right-hand side for whatever reason. So like you can see up here, this temple looks great. This one's got some high points in it. Um, we want it even. We want it flat because if you have white spots, that's just exposure from the light, like the flash of a camera is what it's simulating. So in the game, its lighting engine is going to expose that twice, so you're going to have like really bright spots. And you've probably seen it before with like really crappy face scans on created superstars. Same thing here. So typically what we'll do, unless there's like a really defining mark, like if uh, Dynamite's a good example where he had a mole like right around here. Um, Unless you have like a really defining feature, we can usually get by with essentially copying this. Lasso tool is great for it. Um, then just flipping it horizontally and then kind of feathering it in. So let's see what we've got around the temples. It's not terrible. Um, Once we bring in our front side, we may be able to sneak by with that. Yeah, so once again, I've got just lasso tool here, and this is kind of following the same line of the stuff that we projected. So just copy, paste. Now we've got our new layer. Control T for transform. Horizontally flip it. And we'll line it up as best we can. Let's see, it's not perfect, um, but we don't need perfect. Okay. So then eraser tool, like I said, you can do a feather mask or whatever on this. Personally, I like kind of going in manually just because I want to see exactly what it is that I'm taking out. If I can get my keyboard to work with me. And I'm not obsessing over it because this is going to get covered up anyway by our front layer, but just so it's got something, you know, smooth and uniform to fall back on in case we have to take some more off of the front, um, it'll work for us. Our biggest thing is we want that smooth transition between what we made and what the game already has. Yeah, hairline actually turned out pretty good. So before I flatten this, I'm going to bring in this layer and we'll see what we need to adjust for him first. All right, so as you can see, like around the edges, that's where you kind of start to get your stretch, and that's what we want to eliminate. I'm curious on the temple here too. We'll have to adjust like the hue and the contrast, but this is going to be a little bit more usable than this or this, so let's get rid of that. But we want to make sure we keep our detail like around the crow's feet. Um, Eyebrows, you have to play with them a little bit. It's like there's some, if they have like a really long eyebrow, part of your side profile may have like that portion looks a little bit better. But obviously for your main part, you want that front projection. And I've got my opacity around 55 for that. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit more as you kind of start to get into the more delicate areas. All right, so cheeks are a big one because you get a lot of detail there. Usually you'll shoot for like somewhere around the cheekbone. Seems like it's a good kind of cutoff point. All right, so you can see as I'm erasing that, it's becoming a little bit more uniform, but we're avoiding like the really bright highlights from the side profile. All right, so same thing on this side. What the fuck was going on with his chin there? And you can always go back and see, you know, what old dude's looking like. That's Vince. Let's see, image texture. All right, so I'll leave that detail that I had down there. I guess it's just getting his. Okay, there you go. He's got some weird ass whiskers. Probably just erase that on top of the Rowdy um, in game, unless it is Rowdy's. Either way, we'll figure it out. All right, so I'll turn off the other layers and see what all else I need to erase from my front projection. Turn the opacity up a bit more. Get rid of all this stuff, and you can see how little you actually use from the front. Um, but of course, that's what your eye is going to be drawn to on someone's face anyway. See, I took like a little too much away there from the forehead. Yeah. We'll kind of play around with that and see if it looks better with or without the added cheek layer. That's not bad without it though. Once again, the only area is kind of like the temple. All right. And then just so we're kind of wrapping things up, I'll probably end up taking his left eye and cheekbone area, probably copy over another layer on this just to remove some of that highlight. But you guys kind of get an idea of what the process is. Um, so since we're going to experiment, I'll save as a copy. Um, just whatever you think you want to name it. We'll just call this maybe. All right, we'll go back to Blender. We'll fix that in a second. Um, go back to our new, or at least where we're at with the face texture. Now you've still got Roddy's NRM file, so you're gonna have some lines and shit in there. That'll come later. Um, but we've just got to fix a few things really like around the mouth and obviously whatever's going on there with the nose. That's the Photoshop stuff. But he's getting there. Yeah, that looks like Bob's goofy ass. All right, so I'll turn back on my original picture. I'm gonna pause the video for a second and kind of fast forward through this part, but we'll kind of get him back to where he needs to be. All right, so I've kind of got his stuff fixed a bit. Um, like I said, this is obviously not the final product, but as you can see, like I said before, still got some stuff we need to touch up on the textures. I would usually recommend get super close and pay super close attention to the lips. It's really easy to get the parting of the mouth messed up. Um, and like I said earlier, too, nostrils. Moving on to your finer details, as you can see, the eyes got a little jacked up in this. So, easy enough. Select them, G, Y, and we're just going to move them back. And let's see how he. This look pretty good. We'll bring down that eyelid just a bit. And then your mouthpieces. These are typically going to be all screwed up. If you don't adjust them, you're going to end up with some like chipmunk looking shit. But usually what I'll try to do is, all right, select them all. And then you can kind of see, I guess it's the tongue. I guess it would have to be. It's kind of that horizontal line. Line that up. You'll have to play with it. Everybody's a little different. But try to line it up with the center of the lips. And then as far as the extrusion, oh, wrong button. I'll try and get it to where basically as shallow as you can before they start coming out. Probably about right there. And that should be all right. Um, yeah, that's the basic gist of it. Like I said, a few little touch-ups, but that's how you go from Piper to Duck-Ass Bob Backlund. Um, I'll go over some normal map stuff with like shader map in a little bit later video. But this is the gist of how I've been doing the 3D sculpting. I'm sure there's probably some more conducive ways, but this has been working for me so far. If you guys have any questions, of course, just holler.